Hi, everybody. The last storm whale book I'm going to read to you isn't actually called Storm Whale. It's called Grandma Bird. It's still by Benji Davies. He still did all the pictures and all the words. And it tells us it's from the world of the storm whale. But the title is just Grandma Bird. We see a familiar character. We see Noi over there on a boat. And then we see somebody new that we haven't met yet. Let's read and find out. The end page in this story is sand with some seashells and some bird footprints. And then the title page is very simply Grandma Bird. On the dedication page and the next title page, we get another sight of Noi walking down the beach, carrying Dad's fishing pole, and the title, Grandma Bird. Noi lived with his dad and 6 cats by the sea. It was summer, and Noi was going to stay at Grandma's. Wow. So we still see his house by the ocean. We still see the cats. But it looks like they're packing up, getting on the boat. There's a little suitcase. Sounds like they're headed to Grandma's. Wow. This must be Grandma's house. You can see there's not a lot of beach here. Looks like she lives on a very small island. She hangs her clothes out to dry. She's a rocking chair. She has a little boat. And then here's what we see. We see Noi coming up the dock towards her house. And we see Dad dropping Noi off and heading back to work. It was a long way to Grandma's house. She lived by herself on a tiny rock where the wind cut in and the grass grew sideways. The only visitors were the birds who blew in and out on the breeze. That must be how she got her nickname, Grandma Bird. Noi wasn't sure about Grandma. She boiled up seaweed for soup and kept her teeth in a jar. At night, they had to sleep top to tail. The blankets were itchy, and Grandma snored like an old walrus. There's Noi, head to toe, and Grandma, head to toe. That's how they both fit into that little bed. During the day, Grandma always seemed too busy with one thing or another, and she never had time to play. If you look, you can see it looks like she's doing some yoga, some meditating. And down here, she's sewing, just like the dad was doing. The dad was sewing some fishing net. She's also sewing. So one morning, when the tide was out, Noi crept away. Guys, that's not very safe. He needs to tell a grown-up where he's going. He always likes to go out and not tell a grown-up where he's going, which is very dangerous. When the tide is out, there's a lot of beach. There's a lot of sand to walk on, sand and rocks. But when the tide comes back, when the tide comes in, that will all be covered by water. He hopped from rock to rock and pattered over wet sand. He dipped in and out of rock pools. That's a little pool of water that's left when the tide goes out, it's left by the ocean. Then he spotted something shimmering across the sand. Look, Again, he sees something way out in the distance. And all of this, the tide is out, so all of this is sand. It's ground. He can walk on it. But when the tide comes back in, this will all be water. Wow. It was a great big rock full of holes. Noi weaved in and out and skipped around its edges. It was a castle, a tall ship, a smuggler's den. It was the barnacled back of an ancient whale. Wow, he's doing some great imagination work while he's there. He's pretending a lot of things about this rock. You can see these rocks and sand lead all the way back to Grandma, which is pretty far away right now. And remember, the tide is out, so he has a lot of sand to walk on. But when it comes back in, that will all be water. Outside, the sky swirled black and gray. A storm was brewing. Uh-oh. Noi listened as the sea thrashed against the rocks and rain began trickling down the walls. Do you see him? Suddenly, with a flutter and a squawk, something tumbled out of the storm and landed in Noi's cave. Do you see it? It's a bird. It was a little bird, and it didn't look well. The tiny bird shivered in Noi's hands. He knew he must do something, and quickly. So look, he's picking up the bird now. Maybe Grandma would know what to do. But uh-oh. Remember those rocks that led to Grandma's house that used to be on the sand where you could walk? Look what's happening. The tide's coming back in, and those rocks, they're getting covered by water. That is not safe to walk on. I wonder what he'll do. The tide had come in, and it was hard to find a path across the rocks. Noi hopped, jumped, and leapt with all his might. But the storm blew him left and right. Noi wondered how he would ever make it back to Grandma's. And look, he's carrying the little bird very carefully. When suddenly, a sail came cutting across the sea. There's that sail. That sail might look familiar to you. We'll talk about that in a minute. But who do you think is in the boat? It's Grandma. And there's Noi. He's stuck on a rock in the middle of the water. Oh. Grandma! Shouted Noi. I've got you, cried Grandma, and she scooped them aboard. Thank goodness I found you, she said. Grandma had started searching for Noi as soon as she heard the storm. So look, Grandma's got him. He's safe. The bird is safe. But look at the rain coming down. Those are the rocks he was trying to walk across. And they're all covered by water. It's so dangerous. And I want to show you, if you look back, remember when Grandma was sewing? Let's check out that big orange sail. There it is. It's like she knew she was going to need that at some point with Noi. As they sailed home, Noi and Grandma found more of the windswept birds. They must have been on a long journey together, said Grandma. The house was soon full of chatter and the ruffle of drying wings. Wow, look at all the work they have to do. Feeding seaweed soup to all those birds who are drying off. It's a very important job. Once the storm had passed, the birds went on their way. Only Noi's bird didn't want to leave. I think he likes you, Grandma, said Noi. And here you can see them sitting on Grandma Bird's house. There's Grandma, there's Noi, waving goodbye to all the birds as they fly off to their next destination. Noi wondered if Grandma ever felt lonely living out there by herself. They spent the rest of the summer together, exploring every rock and shore. Look, there they are back in the boat. They are definitely going on adventures together. And Grandma's bird came too. And look who else came. Do you know who that is? That's the storm whale. And look. There's the storm whale's grown up. The family is still together, the family of storm whales. And on the very last page, there's no words, but you know what we see? Dad, Noi, waving goodbye to Grandma, and look who's there. The little bird. Summer must be over. I think they're heading back. And then on the end pages, now we know why there's sand and footprints of birds. The end. That is the third and last storm whale story. The next book that we'll read together is not a storm whale book, but it is by Benji Davies. So we'll see what else he thought of in his imagination, and we'll meet some new characters. See you later.